This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Business Podcast. In studio with us today is Desiree Serna, a.k.a. the Nonprofit Guru, which I think is kind of a cool name. We'll have to get into that. A Latina journalist, publicist, and nonprofit strategist. Desiree is also a senior editor and executive publicist at SA Monthly Magazine. Desiree, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thank you for having me, everyone.
Yeah, good to have you in studio. I know you do a lot of work here in San Antonio, a lot of nonprofit stuff. I'm really excited to learn a bit more about your strategy and how you approach things when it comes to helping nonprofits and also, promoting. I think that's one of the things Jenevy mentioned is that you were in the promotion business. I'm like, oh, it's definitely somebody that I'm interested in talking to. So I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Kruka's Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced overseas administrative assistants for insurance agents who need help with policy management, claims processing, and client communication.
And I'm your co-host, Jenevy Sims with the Evolve Firm, where we help business owners create branding strategies to help evolve and elevate their business.
And I am Heather Boehme, your other co-host, using my higher voice. I am a certified business coach and owner of Onset Professional Development, where we help burnt out and overwhelmed business owners and professionals take control of their businesses and time.
A quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media where you can catch video versions of the show. I mean, literally millions of views across social media. That's what I like about this podcast is we really focus on the video side of what we're doing. You can get to everything easily by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. All right, so Jenevy, you got a BPSA mixer coming up. You guys do one every month. Where's it going to be? Well, real quick, what is BPSA? Where are you guys going to be at and who are you supporting this month?
Awesome. Well, BPSA is a networking group that meets on the second Wednesday of every month, and we help support our local nonprofits and our local venues while getting business owners together to collaborate and network and expand their businesses. This month, we're very excited because we are going to have Faith-Bound Ministries. It's one of the nonprofits that we've worked with before in the past, and they have done amazing work with our homeless community here in San Antonio. And so this month we are going to be having it on August 14th at the beautiful Amelia Social House. So I'm very excited, and I'd like to invite all of you that are listening to register at bpsaevents.com and come out, bring your cards, and let's network.
Amelia's my daughter's name. I'll have to go to that one.
Amelia. That's a nice
gorgeous
name.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, so Desiree, tell me a little bit about your background. I know you're from San Antonio, from the West Side. So kind of give us that journey to where you're at now.
Yes, well, I'm proud to say what I say when I introduce myself in conventions or any of my speaking platforms is I'm first generation college graduate. I'm first generation in a professional career. I'm second generation entrepreneur. My father and mother ran an upholstery business right here on Bandera Road for 40 years. It was a family business that we all ran together. But I'm a multi-generational chingona. I was taught from my family, gave me all my values, gave me my ethic, and they sure did tell me how to be a strong woman here in San Antonio.
Where did you go to high school?
I actually went to high school at Thomas Jefferson High School, the pride of the West Side here in San Antonio, in Omni Uno for those Mustangs there that are watching, just to give Flex a little bit on Jefferson High School. Jefferson High School is an incredible historic landmark, as a matter of fact, and it's considered a historic landmark. It's beautiful. If you have never gone to visit the campus, please go look. But you may know Jefferson High School because of the beautiful public servants that come out of there. We have several mayors, many politicos that come out of there, politicians. And again, most importantly, I think what I really like to flex is the public servants that come out of Jefferson. So I went to Jefferson High School, but I stayed here in San Antonio to get educated. I went to UTSA. I'm a double alum from UTSA. So I did graduate there from the College of COLFA, College of Liberal and Fine Arts, with an undergrad degree in communications with a focus on public relations. I have 2 minors in business management and in nonprofit management. So I went there to grad school also in their College of Public Policy, and went to go get a Master in Public Administration, graduate leadership certificate, and then went on to Our Lady of the Lake on the west side as well. And I am all but dissertation there with a PhD in leadership studies.
Where did the passion for nonprofit work come from?
So PR is my game, right? Well, one of my first ever projects that I worked on with was at Blue Star Contemporary Art Center. And many people, or gallery, many people don't realize it's a 501c3. So as I worked there in PR, I started realizing, my goodness, this world is fabulous. Here we are pushing a mission here that's so incredible that it's touching people to their core. Their mission is arts focused naturally. And it was incredible how many people rallied together and supported Blue Star based on that mission and that connection. When you realize that there are these organizations that go out and help uplift communities, it was very profound to realize that. So I'm glad to have worked under incredible people like Bill Fitzgibbons. He was the executive director when I was there. And again, I just started realizing that it was a fabulous industry to get part of. So I started really getting an expertise there. I told myself, find a niche. Publicity, it's so wide, right? You can represent so many different industries. I really wanted to have an expertise, a niche. So while I do actually represent several industries, my niche and my expertise, I like to say, is in nonprofit, but it was rooted in publicity and PR.
So, but there wasn't like a personal story or something that really kind of drew you into the nonprofit, or was it just you liked the industry, you liked their overall mission?
I'm a public servant at heart. So when you realize like, hey, there is this philanthropic industry out here, again, that they are changing different communities. To me, that was something you don't see a lot of people doing that, Mark.
So you love the mission.
I love the mission. I love the giving back.
Yeah.
It's incredible to be part of so many wonderful nonprofits that are changing the world. Collectively, we are doing incredible things. So
there's a spirit there.
It is.
There's this, and there's. You can almost feed off of it in a good way, right? You can contribute to it and you can live with it. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Mm-hmm. But there's a spirit of this, that follows the nonprofit work along. So is that endearing to you? Kind of keeps you plugged in?
It does. I truly believe that whatever is good will always come back to you. I have always been taught to be humble, to be good. Those 2 things right there, I promise you, will always come back to you. And so always having that want, I think, to stay a good, authentic person. And again, just a community contributor. I have seen, Mark, where I was raised in, it's a very distressed area and you see a lot. And I was able to rise up a lot. And I saw only a minority of people rise up from where I was raised in. I love empowerment. I love giving back. That's who I am. And so when I found a career that aligned with that, I knew that was what I was going to do.
So it's interesting, though, because when I hear PR, and I'm maybe the only one in here that thinks this, I think celebrity scandal a lot, right?
And I love the word association because I love that the philanthropic side of it. It's rare that I deal with crisis management.
Yeah.
It's rare that I'm dealing with scandal. So my philanthropic clients, I love that they're good. They're wonderful industry. It's a wonderful industry to represent. Now, I will tell you, my other clients that I represent, I love that I am my own, boss, if you will, because I get to choose my clients.
Yep.
Before I sign any client, I sit down and see what they're about. And they sit down and see what I'm about. And so I get to pick and choose my clients. And I make sure that they always have upliftment, empowerment, good somehow, and entailed in what they do.
But in today's world, like PR scandal doesn't always mean the person has done anything bad. I feel like we're in a world where people can have a misconception and then the tide has turned. And PR itself, it seems like you have to be really strategic in the way you handle these things and the way you navigate those situations. So does that come up ever with charities where it's probably not, in your clients too, where it probably wasn't anything they did, but the perception has turned against them and you have to navigate that?
Absolutely. I will tell you again, I represent and not just the philanthropic industry, but I also do represent various different entertainers, publications, etc. You do have to know how to advise them when there's any type of crisis or when there's any type of negative publicity. I always like to say, if you have haters, you're doing it right. If you don't have haters, you're doing it wrong. So you do have to give your clients the confidence of knowing haters will be out there. That's natural. How you respond to it is something different, right? That's where a publicist comes in and advises, hey, remove that emotion. You are a public, and you're a public figure or a public entity, and you have to respond accordingly. This is not about you personally. This is about you as a public figure or public organization. Remove your emotions from any type of, don't even respond. Let me respond.
Yes. And you know what? A lot of business owners need actually that advice too, is that you do not need to respond with emotion, especially when you get a bad review from a client or somebody posts something on social media. Instead of reacting emotionally, it's good to have that publicist or someone on your side that actually sees the bigger picture and says you need to slow down and let's think this strategically, and which is very important, and it's a key skill.
Yes. One of our first responses is emotion. As humans, one of our first responses is emotion, and especially if it's something so personal to an organization that you founded and built up.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It can be very personal to any founder to be attacked or criticized. But again, I can't emphasize enough, know that you can't please everyone. It's impossible to please everyone. It's impossible for everyone to like what you stand for. So have that emotional intelligence to reserve yourself.
Let's back up and just explain your industry, your PR industry. Explain that for someone that maybe doesn't really understand it other than what we see in the media, which is we don't see a whole lot about what really happens behind the scene. But explain your job, your day-to-day operations, and what you do for your clients.
So day-to-day, my job, again, is I tell them when I sit down with my clients, there's a difference between publicity and marketing. So while marketing is worried about revenue and bottom line, my job is making sure that my client's image to the public is perfect. It looks perfect. Whatever's going on in their personal life, they don't see that. What they're seeing is how they're representing their industry, how they're representing as a leader, and the movement that they're part of. So what are they standing for? Again, remove your person from that. So I help with publicity, someone's image, okay? So that can entail different things, having them go support certain things. I find out, what do you support? If you're a client of mine, what do you support? Do you support music? Do you support business? What do you support? So I can connect them with that community. So I like to say I'm a connector, right? When you're in PR, you're worried about image, you're worried about connecting your clients to the right network for that matter, right? So to distinguish, those are big things. No, I don't do marketing. I have great network of marketers that I can, plug my clients into, but that is not what I do. I'm not worried about numbers. I'm worried about image, if you will.
So at what level do you start working with someone to where they would really need a PR publicist versus just kind of winging it and building up their notoriety?
So one, if you're an up and coming public figure, if you know that your mission is larger than a real small niche, if you're just going to be you're happy with staying small. My dad was happy with staying a small business. He did not want to scale. He did not want to grow, right? But if you want growth, if you want to impact, especially, that's when clients come to me. If they want, and it's not about scaling. Again, scaling is something different. Some people come to me and say, hey, Desiree, I want to scale. And I tell them that's a great indicator that you need a publicist. don't come to me to help you scale your business. Go to a strategist, go to a marketing expert. But as far as your image, as you are scaling and as you are growing, I will help cultivate that image.
So you talked about connecting them with, like, what are you about, right? So if they're about music or they're about art or whatever, you're going to do that. But what else are you connecting them to or putting them in front of?
Events. I mean, if there are events that are coming, so for example, Ice Cube was just in town this weekend doing a couple of different things, but he's out there also, he was out there connecting with the community. Many did not realize that Big Three was actually out there connecting with the communities. So what did I do? I plugged in some of those nonprofit mentees. I plugged in, I helped facilitate the nonprofit that honored Ice Cube with a Visionary Award. And so, it comes down to connecting and plugging in the right place. Exposure, absolutely.
And then capturing it and then ensuring it gets on social media. Just a little bit of a sidebar, but what's your main social media that you're using, or are you really hitting all of them?
I hit all of them. I mean, I think LinkedIn, Linktree is important. I think LinkedIn is important. I mean, YouTube, all of them. It's not, a lot of times when I do meet with my clients, they don't realize that social media platforms extend beyond what I like to call like the conventional Facebook, Instagram. There's now TikTok, YouTube, and these have been around for a long time. It's just now people are starting to realize how to utilize them.
Well, how are you utilizing? You said Linktree. Now, I'm familiar with Linktree, but what are you doing with Linktree?
Linktree is just a way to connect with individuals. It tells you a little bit of everything you do, right? So it's kind of like a resume or a CV that's right there, easy to connect, to say
this is what you're about.
Yes, this is what you're about. It's hard. Imagine, we've all heard of an elevator pitch, right? They say, oh, you got to do an elevator pitch in like 60 seconds. We don't have 60 seconds anymore. When you're connecting with people, like when I go to BPSA mixers or anything like that, I don't get to sit down and actually have in-depth conversations because we're either networking or, even better, we're running or hosting events like that. So having a Linktree, having your social media platforms and all that readily available is important. But no, there are certain generations, I guess you could say, that respond to all of it differently. Even to me, business cards, I tell my clients all the time, I know these things seem like relics, but you have to know, I sat down with a fabulous artist the other day, and we were just talking, drinking champagne together, but he was about 85 years old. If I would have pulled out a digital QR code, if I would have pulled out anything, a Linktree, he wouldn't know how to connect. I had my good old business card. I had it. All of those are platforms to connect with, and stay old school, but stay fresh too.
So when you're interviewing a client and you decide, like, what kind of client are you looking for? You know, for you, Desiree, what are you looking for in a client?
Primarily, again, I would say about 70% of my clients are charities, foundations, or founders in some way, shape, or form. And within that, I have international league players from Canadian League, from Qatar, NFL, Olympians, but I also represent different industries. So my clients, the interesting thing is my clients come to me by reputation. So it's very organic how my clients come to me. It's just through pure ethic and reputation that many of my clients come to me.
Do you connect your clients as well to each other?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I have to do, Mark. If I'm not connecting my clients, I'm doing it wrong, as I like to say.
So I'm interested in hearing, because PR, it sounds glamorous, but it's high-level strategy and implementation, and you're working with people who don't always do exactly what you say. So I can't even imagine the difficulty, but I imagine it appeals to people the same way like acting does. Yes. Acting is a high-level skill set. It's really hard to do. Only a few people make it, but still there's thousands of people who want to be actors, and I'm assuming PR is very similar. So tell me about making your way from getting you into it all the way to the level you are now, where people come to you and they say, please work with me.
Well, again, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in PR game, showing my age, about 20 plus years. And over time, I really learned how, one, I have to be the calm person that's going to, I need to show that calmness at all times with my clients. I have to show them how to decompress, how to process, and how to proceed. But I'll tell you, I work with a lot of different personalities. I work, and you learn how to manage them, just like my children. It's just like managing, how you learn to approach your children. You have to know what battles, to lose, what battles to win. Trust me, sometimes when you're working in entertainment, even some of the founders of nonprofits that I work with, they're very set in what they want, and I just have to make it happen. So over time, you learn how to connect with whoever I'm connecting my client with. I like to get exact specifics. What are you looking for in this collaboration? What are you looking for in this project? How do you want to proceed? I give them I get from them exactly what they want out of a project.
So this is going to get more personal and about you, but tell me about the moment where you wanted to quit, but it all worked out.
All the time.
I wouldn't
The
have
most
guessed
memorable
that.
one.
I seriously wouldn't have guessed that because you seem to have a really authentic connection to your work.
I really do. Mark, I thank God every single day for my blessings in my career. Again, when you are an entrepreneur, you're making a choice, right? I promise you, I could easily go into corporate America, get a fabulous figure job and be happy with it. I'm choosing impact. This is my choice that I'm making, and I made that choice for a reason. It is very difficult because I also manage a family. I also grapple with, again, I could go get this job where I have two weeks off, a month off, have all the benefits that come with corporate America, but I won't be making the impact that I know I'm making with this right here. So the connection, again, I really do feel blessed in what I'm doing. I think that with my clients, I change this world. It allows me to do other things. I was a professor for 10 years, and I go in and out of teaching. I've taught undergrad, I've taught graduate, everything, nonprofit courses at graduate level. It gives me a lot of flexibility to be my own brand.
Well, back to Heather's question about what, you've probably been broadsided in your career, and tell us about that. Or a hard time when you went through where you were like, you know what, maybe I should quit, and then what pulled you out of that?
So again, I'm a mother of 4. I have a almost 14-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old son, 9-year-old daughter, and 7-year-old son, and I am very traditional Latina, where I do like the traditional role of being wife and mother. That's my first role, and it's difficult when you're balancing those, especially when I had them almost all in diapers, where you're pulling your hair out and you're just like, I'm balancing this and family life. That's difficult to balance both. And I have thought, because I will always choose my family first. My family is an easy, they're first. I choose them over anything. So as a wife and mother, I will tell you, when they were little, it was very difficult, and I really did consider just giving up. It was too much. But instead, what I did, brought them along to my events. I brought them along to my events. They go with me everywhere. I am raising future leaders. I'm raising future community connectors. I'm raising future voters. So they go with me to the polls. They go with me to my events. I should have brought one of them here, but yesterday my kids were there. One of my kids, again, was playing there on the court with the young 3 that was coached by Big 3. I connect them with what I'm doing. That's how I was able to move past it. And now that the kids are older and picture, I was doing that when they were tiny, and I'm still lugging them around. So what I will tell to especially those women or family persons, because my husband went through it too. My husband's my partner, so he's right there by my side. And I will tell you that I had incredible support from my husband. I had incredible support from my family, but I had incredible support from my clients that allowed me to bring my kids with me to these events and not look down on it. In fact, they empowered me through it. So really having that one, it's authentic to say, I chose my family. I choose my family. It's okay to be frustrated as a business person and have those moments of weakness where you're like, do I leave? Do I just leave it all? But work through it. Work through it. Like my solution, bringing the kiddos along.
That's great. I love that you touch on that too. And I mean, Mark's outnumbered here with all the mamas in the room. But that is one of the great things about being your own owner, right, for a business, and to be able to have your kids part of this journey. And I love how you touched on that because it's so important. You're never going to choose your client over your family. And this is the beauty of choosing your clients, being able to choose your clients, because you're going to choose clients that align with your mission too and your goals too. And so when you do bring your kids along, they're not going to look down on you for it. And for me as a business owner too, that was one of the main things that I struggled with, was that challenge when, I'm changing my kids' diapers and my phone is blowing up. I need this now. And I was like, how do I respond to this? Because at this moment, now I'm flustered. I'm trying to take care of a crying baby and my client needs this now, but this stuff could actually wait. So having to navigate that as a woman, as a business owner, it's really a process, and it kind of shows your resilience and it shows your emotional strength. And so you are a great representative for all these people that you represent, because you're able to actually not just tell them how to do it, but show them how to do it.
And I think too, there's stories we don't hear as much of. We hear the comeback story, though we made it all work. Now it's great. And we put on a good face, as everybody does. But I don't hear as many entrepreneurs talk about the oh shit moments. Yeah. Like, why am I doing this? It's really hard. It's really stressful. It's really scary. I'm crying and my spouse is questioning what is even going on here. And then it does turn around, but it generally doesn't turn around the way you think it's going to. The solution may not have been what you planned. And part of it is just having faith in yourself, confidence in yourself. And that's almost harder than any strategy or marketing plan or sales technique, because there's really only one person that can believe in yourself as much as needs to be done, and that's you. So entrepreneurs, I feel like they share the, oh yeah, we made it to the other side. Right. But they don't share the, I was sitting at my kitchen table trying to decide if I made the right choice in starting this business or not. And I think those are really valid stories. And sharing how you overcame them can help someone who's sitting there right now be like, well, you know what? I'm just going to bring them. Mark knows, because I was on his coaching call last week with my children trying to destroy my best friend's house.
And I'm thinking the whole time, oh, she's an actual person. She has a family. You know what I mean? So it's not a negative at all. It's
very
just
authentic.
What it is.
It's real.
I will tell you one advice that I will give anyone, not just a business owner, but just a person. The reason I feel I've been successful, I don't even like using that word, but so impactful, I guess you could say, is because how many times I have failed. I mean, fallen to the floor, where I am just like, my proverbial soul is on the floor, and failure is the key to success. I'm very big at bringing home style meals. So when I make a dinner for anyone, if I host you over, my kids, if I'm having anyone over, I home style, I serve everything at the table. And we have dinner conversation all the time. This is legit. This is 100%. And I love to ask questions. My daughter, Allison, likes to ask questions. What's the most productive part of your day? One of my favorite questions to ask is, how did you fail today? And we have to teach our kids how to fail. It's part of being a human. You have to show them how to learn from failure. I have failed over and over and over again. But that right there, the story that I have got myself up, dust myself off, and go and be a leader after that, we want to show not just students, children, but business owners, everyone, how to do that.
There's a couple ways to look at failure, right? I mean, is failure a negative? Well, sure can feel like it, right? But failure is a process, moving towards success. Well,
and if you look at the people who have made it, and that's different for everybody, right? The definition of success is totally different. But the people that I look up to and the people that I want to be one day, almost every single one of them have one of those epic failure moments. They lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, or their house almost got foreclosed on, or, just something really bad happened to them. So sometimes when things really bad happen to me, I just think about that. I'm like, well, going through my oh shit moment must be working. But I don't feel like we've been raised to think like that. We've been raised to think, well, we must be failures because we're going through this oh shit moment. So let's give up because obviously we're doing it wrong. So what gave you, you grew up in an entrepreneurial setting, but did that give you what you needed to overcome those moments, or did you kind of have to learn it on your own?
I saw it. I saw my mother and father fail a lot. I saw them go through a lot of struggle. I saw them still, while they're doing that, give back to the community in a very grassroots way. I saw them still connect with their community. I saw them never give up. My parents had every single reason to give up. And I will tell you, just witnessing that as a child, we're sponges when we're children. We see everything, we hear everything. So I know that they built my ethic. I know they built my values. I know they built my strength because I saw them. I was so impressed when I saw Marc's daughter here, and I said, oh, this is a family affair. They are watching us as business owners. They're watching everything. And we might not see an immediate type of return on investment for
she
you,
looked really
Will.
annoyed with you when you were talking about
oh, yes,
clothes.
I have teenagers, so I get it, And, but we just have to continue to show that example. Trust me when I say when they're our age, when they're like in their 30s, as they're growing older and maturing, everything that they saw, we're going to see them acted out.
Well, and it's good to kind of reflect on because, my wife and I, we have a pretty strong work ethic, and you don't always see that from the kids initially, but they are watching like what you're saying. And so I would imagine that, if they've seen it, they'll emulate it at some point, right? And that'll manifest. You just can't help but manifest it. This is how my mom and dad did it. You know what I mean? So that's the hope as a parent, that they'll see that in their kids.
So let me round robin this a la Howie, who is not here today, but I'm in his seat. So what gives you the tenacity? What gives you the ability to work past the oh shit moments? And I want Jenevy to answer that too.
Well, to be truthful, I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge. There's a story that when I was in the San Antonio Police Academy, I still remember to this day. So I had shin splints, which is really, really bad on the legs when you're trying to run, and there's like requirements to run. And there was a 3-mile run that we had to do in a certain amount of time. And we go around the driving track. It's called a cool-down track, and it's on the outskirts of the actual racing, or the racing track, but the performance track, right? But it's about 0.9 miles, but we go around multiple times. And when you come around, the instructors are there and the gate's there, right? Well, every time I came around, I wanted to quit. I still get chills thinking about it because I was in so much pain. But I'm like, I've got to do this, right? So, and I would just round the corner.
What gave you the gut to do this, though?
Well, it wasn't fear. It wasn't fear of failure. It was, this is something that just had to get done. It was just, I loved it. You know what I mean? I loved being at the academy. I've got a picture when I was 7 years old that I drew that it was, I'm going to be a police officer when I grow up. And it's like, this was my path. So I think it was just, I knew I was on the right path. And there wasn't any quit in me for that. But there was the thought of the quit, but then the push would just get me around the corner. And I ended up qualifying. And I still to this day wonder if I didn't make my time sometimes, because I wasn't that fast. Obviously, I was injured, but I passed, and the instructors knew the integrity for what I was that I displayed for what I was doing because I always showed up. Just kind of some real cool stories there, but yeah, I just knew I was on the right path, and push.
Yeah, that's that inner confidence that you are 100%. This is what you were meant to do, and you just did it. That's a superpower, man.
Yeah.
It is a superpower.
I think that, and that's how I feel like now. Where I'm at and what I'm doing. And you can see the fruit of what I'm doing as I move along, especially with respect to the networking side of the things that I'm doing.
And you see the faith in it too, like for you at least, like that this is going to work. It's just, you're going to keep going forward until it does. And that's, I think, one of the harder parts too, is having faith that you are on the right path, even when it may not be working out exactly as you envisioned it initially. But just keep pushing forward because, what is it, the 3 feet from gold rule?
Yes.
You know, you're maybe 3 feet from gold. You don't know until you dig 3 feet further. How about you, Genevieve?
Well, honestly, when I first started my business, and this is going to be true for a lot of entrepreneurs, is that you start off not only to have that vision of, creating a business that provides solutions, but also proving your critics wrong, because everywhere I went, especially networking, I was the youngest, I was a minority, I didn't look like a professional in my industry, so nobody cared to give me the time of day. So when I went to networking events, I was like, I had to make that decision. If I'm going to go in there, I'm going to be the first one there, I'm going to be the last one to leave. I made sure that my voice was almost hoarse by the time I was done because I was talking to so many people, not to build my business, but to build connections, to build those relationships. So it started out as proving my critics wrong, but it turned into finding ways to prove that my creator was right. Remembering what God said about me. Remembering what God said that I can do and what I am capable of doing, because there's always going to be another critic. So no matter what you do, to someone's eyes, you're not going to be good enough. Someone's eyes, you're not going to be strong enough. You're not successful enough. But when you remember what God has said about you, what his word says about you, especially in your business, people can resonate with that. People can connect with that. That's what makes the impact. We talked about, your gifts and your talents, what God has given you, but then there's also that anointing. When you're walking your anointing, especially in your business, people get set free. And so when you're walking into the room, it's not that you want people to see you. You want people to see what you're capable of and what you can do, the solutions you are providing. And that's what also PR does. And people, can resonate with that, because it's not like, what can you do for me? It's like, what can we do together as a community with the resources and the gifts and talents that we have together? And so for me, it started off as proving my critics wrong. But at the same time, it's like, as soon as I tapped into my niche, as soon as I tapped into the right people, the right circle, things started evolving. Things started changing, including my business name.
Yeah, that's finding your lane. You know what I mean? Where you fit well and you can move along. And what about you, Heather?
I was just going to say, that felt like, when you read a book and it's got the title cover and then you find the part in the book and you're like, oh, that's why it's called that. That just happened with Genevieve. Evolve. For me, I was not raised to process failure well. I was raised that failure was unacceptable. So my answer to failure was always, you must not have worked hard enough, so work even harder. And that manifested as I would burn myself out, come to a grinding halt, and then have to recover that energy, recover that stamina. The problem is I'm really ambitious. So I'd come back from that burnout, instead of just going back to where I was, I'd be like, and what do I do next? Harder. And then burn myself out more. So I feel like I'm still learning how to process failure and accept it and learn from it. But every time it happens, it goes quicker. So like the first time I had a big failure, it took years for me to really process that and overcome it. And I probably didn't do it the right way, right? And now every time it comes a little faster because I've learned techniques to help me work through it, and I've learned how to forgive myself. And every time I fail, though, the burning question that comes to me is what I want worth this? Is it worth it? Because it would be easier to go get a job. It would be easier to have the stability of a paycheck that I can expect every 2 weeks and know exactly how to plan. I'm a planner. And it always comes down to, even before I had kids, and now the kids make it even worse, right? But is doing the uncomfortable thing, is picking myself back up, is pushing through this worth what I am trying to accomplish? And I keep getting the answer yes, so we're going to keep going.
It's interesting. You compared, or you said that might just be easier to go get a job. And you had mentioned that earlier too. You could easily go get a job, but immediately entrepreneurs are built different. It's like saying, well,
we're unemployable
look,
now.
it would be, there's plenty of leaves and grass. A lion could simply just go eat that, right? But it won't survive off of that. They're built different. And I think entrepreneurs are built different. And when we understand that, it's like we could go get a job, but we're not going to function well in that job because we're going to approach it like an entrepreneur would, which is never a good follower,
Never a good
right?
employee,
There's always going
yeah.
to be a clash there. So it's just a matter of how do I do this do entrepreneurship correctly. And I think that's where, having a good network and being open to coaching and being open to, challenging your ideas and doing all the things that it takes to be an entrepreneur and building out a team, which we'll talk about in the next show. But building out a team is super important as well. So how do you approach your business? Is it just you? Do you have a team? What does that look like?
No, well, I am a solopreneur. I do have mentees that every now and then they turn into interns as well, but I am a solopreneur. A lot of what I do is largely led by me. When I do get interns here and there, I like to empower them and have them, go out to the community and do great things as well. So I'm big on creating other leaders if they're interns of mine. But a lot of what I do, I would say 95% of the work is done by myself.
Now, Heather, you're a business coach, obviously, and entrepreneurship, they say, is a team sport, right? So building out a team around you so that not everything is on your shoulders and you can magnify what you're doing, you can duplicate what you're doing, you can actually take vacation without losing your mind, those kinds of things. What are your thoughts about what she's saying on entrepreneurship as a solopreneur versus maybe exploring the idea of what would adding a person to her team that she can mentor up through and be a part of her business, like being a boss and not just a job owner?
Well, I think it ultimately comes down to her version of success. What is her vision for her business and her future look like? Some people, that vision looks like scalability in a 4-hour work week. And for some people, they don't want employees and they want to be a solopreneur. So ultimately, I don't have an opinion either way, as long as you're happy. Now, if you're miserable, then we work through that. But if a solopreneur is your vision of success and that's the role you want to play and you are fulfilled and happy in it, then power to you. I love it. That's the thing. Ultimately, it comes down to the person running the business because there are no rules.
All right. Have you ever explored not being a solopreneur and doing it as something else, something that is a little bit bigger, more like a business as opposed to a job?
So I do have a vision of course, expanding to great lengths. My priority, again, I keep on coming back to my family because that's my moral compass. My moral compass will always be my family. And I have been very patient. I think God has taught me the lesson of patience. I grow at God's time. Right now, honestly, in the past 3 years, I have really boomed where I'm getting in front of national conferences, where I stepped out of the classroom and started really focusing more on my firm, what I'm doing as philanthropic and public relations. I've grown tremendously, not just over the past 15 years, but in the past 3 years, I have really grown a lot. But it was a time that I think was right for my family. And so it came down to now is the time where I'm really catapulting. I see myself in the next year having a full-fledged, very successful, highly functioning PR firm with plenty of staff and interns, but a lot of interns. I am big on creating other leaders. So I do want to empower other, especially youth. They keep me fresh. The ones that I do, they do. They're the ones that taught me everything about TikTok. I knew about TikTok when it first started, my students. Canva, I knew about Canva when it first started, my students. Mentimeter, they teach me. So I love learning from the younger generation. So I definitely want to collaborate with them and lift them up into PR. Many people, they're starting to realize, hey, publicity is kind of fabulous to be in. But as y'all mentioned, it is very hectic. I have like my close clients that are like family. They say, Desiree, you thrive in chaos, because if something is going crazy at my events, no one will ever know. I'm the one handling everything. But I do see my business scaling. I've been patient over my career because my family was first, but now I am rising and I will be scaling. I would say in the next 10 years, you're going to see philanthropic and public relations scale to a different level.
And when you switch gears from a solopreneur to the business builder, right? Somebody who's building out teams, it's a different ballgame, is it not?
I mean, absolutely. At that point, it's not just about your quality of work. It's about managing other people to your level of expectations and holding that firm. So where do you foresee the biggest challenge in growing that team to where you want it to be?
You really have to know how to coach your team. It's not about just getting talent. You really do have to coach them on various different aspects of you have to connect them with your mission, whatever your vision is, your mission for your organization. I don't care if it's a business or a nonprofit. You have to connect them, and that's a skill to get them connected. So that is one of the greatest challenges. Another challenge is the fact that there's not a lot of they don't really understand. If you're getting, young individuals and you're molding them, their capacity is not as high as someone who has 25 years, right? So you have to know how to coach someone that has high commitment but lower capacity. There's a way that you approach that in a coaching manner, as a matter of fact, that you have to see where is the competency of my team? Where is the commitment of my team, right? And with every situation, it's very different. And you have to know how to read that from your team that you're building and how to build on that. If I have someone that's very high on commitment but low on competence, I know I have to go and coach them on, okay, what are the strategies to get them here? I have to give them books to read. I have to get them, different ways to cultivate their capability. So you really do have to know how to read your team and how to empower them based on the situation that they are in.
Yeah, that's the job of leadership there. And when you think about a football team, right, you have a coach and they're on the sidelines, right, and they're not in the best shape, but they're the coach, right? I mean, they know operationally how things are supposed to run. Then you got all the different players. There's 11 players, right? There's not 18. There's not 6, right? I mean, there's structure to what's happening there too, which I think is fascinating as I learn more and more about businesses. There is a system to building out a business, and understanding that and being able to put those pieces together in a proper structure. That's part of it, is just knowing how to even build functionally the business on top of leadership, because leadership's its own thing, which is primarily what you're talking about, is coaching these people through the aspects of their job.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I don't know if there's technically a proper structure. It's just like knowing the structure that you want to run the type of business you want. And that's where I find people like are disconnected a little bit, that I work with at least. It's not so much that they don't know the business they want, but they have no idea what structure will support the level of business they want. Like, how many employees is that going to be? What are each of those employees going to be doing? Is that enough work for them? Is that way too much work for them? How do I hold them accountable without like going in and reviewing their entire day's worth of work? That's the structure, and it can be anything, but the clarity of that is huge. And once you've got that, and it's like just knowing, now I just have to go execute.
but you can also know that in advance. And I'm speaking from personal experience in that I've got 5 employees, right? And then operationally it becomes overwhelming to manage all of that and be the visionary and be the salesperson. And my wife comes in as the operations person, and I see how functionally she's good for that, but she makes sure that everybody's held accountable to the rules and all the things. So now I realize, well, this is a COO. This is a true COO position. But the thing is it's already there. It's like this information's already out there on how you structurally you can grow a business. So I think those things are important to understand if you're gonna, as an entrepreneur, if we're going to build a business, learn those pieces, learn basic structure, and learn how to walk through those pieces. And what does a team of 2 look like, or a team of 4, or a team of 8, or a team of 30? And what is that, and how do you build that out? I think that's good information to know. Like, if you're going to be a football player, wouldn't it be good to know what position you're going to play, and how the plays work, and what's the guy on the sideline yelling at me? Well, that's the coach. What does he do? Why is he there? I mean, you should just know these things, right? So I think that in education, all the way back to the beginning of the show, we talked about education a little bit. I think that's something that people need. They need entrepreneurial education. They need to be able to get that on a regular basis and easy access to it. There's a great story from this podcast I was talking about that this guy talked about. There's a lot of people in prison that is like selling drugs, right? Well, that was their path to entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. They had that entrepreneurial spirit. I had never thought about this before until I heard this guy tell the story. I'm like, that makes perfect sense. Who are they modeling? Who are they looking up to? It's the people in their neighborhood. Mm-hmm. They're seeing what they see, and they understand this is a path to success. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm an entrepreneur. That's the kind of thing that I can sell and do the whatever. So anyway, I think I'm passionate about entrepreneurship as a nonprofit kind of a thing, is teaching people how to be entrepreneurs at a young age and in giving them a path to that success.
I will leave this again. Team build to me, team building is one of those, and not team, creating a team. I always say this again. It seems like we all have very different expertise. Again, I'm a publicist, but that is very different from a business coach. That is very different from business development. So you have to know the right team to assemble. And I always live by diversity in counsel, unity in command, right? You have to find that diverse counsel, the business strategist, the business development, find everyone's expertise that your team needs to be a successful movement, organization, and always live by that. Make sure you have a diverse council, and those that don't rubber stamp. If you have those that are yes people, get them off your team. Get them off your team. But you do want to have that diversity in your council and those that are unity in, what your mission is.
Absolutely. And then also, when you're talking about building out your team, I love the thought of also, passing on your experience, which comes with the soft skills, right? Especially for the younger generation coming in, teaching them those soft skills. How do you go along teaching them that part of your business?
So I was a faculty mentor at Vista and at UTSA for years and years. And I would give them mentorship. But more recently, again, what I'm giving them is experience. I have found that has been the number one thing to help uplift is actually getting them outside of the classroom, outside of the boardroom, and actual experience. I have a client, Icon Talks, and their foundation, Icon to ICANN, and their mission is expansion through exposure. That's simple. We need to learn how to expose our mentees to, because they may be like me, first time professional career, in a professional career. I will tell you, I came again from very, very humble beginnings. My father was a very humble business owner, and he could not say, oh, let me call my buddy, give you, so you could have lunch with him or hook you up with an interview or anything like that. I was able to do that. And the only way I was able to do that is, again, by my dad exposing me to his business, showing me what goodness is. So I realized that not just as a faculty mentor, not just as a business, as a community impactor and contributor, I know that the way we're going to lift people up is by showing them, bringing them to the mixer, showing them how to dress, even down to how do you dress? How do you greet someone? Where do you go? Now my mentees, I've been showing them all the, the different mixers that are here, there, all over San Antonio. It's opening their eyes. They're fascinated by it. And I want them to be, so they continue to connect with their business community. So exposure to me is very important when it comes to empowerment.
And exposure makes a big impact. Were you there at BNI? We had one of our BNI members sent his daughter to our BNI for like a year. She was their office manager. She basically just did all of their networking, and she got into A&M, and she went to A&M, and they went to a little mixer networking event, and she was super good at it. A lot of people came up and they commented on how great she was at just talking to other people and how great at networking she was. She ended up getting a scholarship because of her networking skills at that mixer. And a lot of that was because of BNI, she was saying. So these soft skills make a massive impact, because I went into college at 17 and you could not have gotten me to make eye contact with anybody at a networking mixer. I was so shy and awkward and just, ugh.
It's so important. When I went to go speak at the Art Institute when they were open a couple of years ago, and they had me talk about networking and really basically, the etiquettes of networking. And so I invited them to come to a BPSA mixer, and one of their students, he got there early, and so I had some time, set him aside, and kind of coached him a little bit. This is how you stand up. This is your posture. This is how you greet people, and just kind of walked him through it. And then I let him go. Just kept an eye on him. And throughout the night, anytime I saw him by himself, I introduced him to someone else. So he was never by himself. I went to follow up with the class the next day, and he told everybody, he goes, Jenevy would not let me stand by myself. And then he was like, and he had been in the military before, and he was like, I have done all sorts of things in the military, but networking was the scariest thing I've ever done.
Is it public speaking and networking?
But he was like, he learned so much. And he actually met somebody who he got a job a couple months later, just because he had the courage to, first of all, show up and then listen to what we told him, about networking that really opened up opportunities. And that's how Mark and I met, was at a networking event. And then 14 years later, we reconnected and still picked up where we left off.
I was shy too, right, in school. I think most people are. And the thing that helped me get past that, and it works not only in public speaking, but it also works in networking, because it's the same shyness, it's just a different setting, is that it's not about me, it's about the other person. When you make it about the other person, it's easy, because then you're helping them feel comfortable, or you're helping them relax. And if you're on stage in front of hundreds of people, you can still make connection. You know what I mean? You don't have to talk over everybody. You can actually make connection, and then you improve their experience. That's a way of giving back. And same thing on networking. When you go up and you introduce somebody with a smile, and you're anxious, or you're not anxious, but you're eager to learn about what they're doing, that energy is there, and it makes them feel good. So that's just a little shift that anybody can make, and I think it helps a lot. So, but we're kind of at the end of our show here. If folks want to get in touch with you, where can they find you on your social media and get in touch with you?
Well, on Instagram is my largest platform. I am at the TX Nonprofit Guru on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook as well. I'm working on my website that will be up and coming. And all of San Antonio has my cell phone number, as I always like to joke. They can always reach me. And yes, I do give my personal cell phone out. And it's a public cell phone. Everyone has God has my cell phone number. So they can reach me on my cell phone, 210-833-6979. I do personally respond to all my text messages and phone calls.
I love it.
Not for long when she builds that team out, y'all.
Right. Yes, Heather, I love it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in, Desiree. It was a great show. I think we all got to dig in a little bit more on what you're doing and ask some great questions and give some keen insight, which really this show is all about. It's not just about, learning about folks, but it's also sharing insight and seeing what we can come up with during the show that maybe we all learned a little bit, something extra.
Absolutely. All
right, as we wrap up the show, a quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms. You can get to everything easily through our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it for this one. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.